Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Wednesday, June 26th. Almost the end of the month, are we? So I thought today's topic would be, one of you asked about pricing. So we'll talk about that. How do you price something, right? And then we need to talk about do-overs because you're going to have those throughout the year. And I'm curious to see what your take is on that. And then lastly, Randy's comment about how the older videos are showing up. So hang tight. Alrighty, my name is Eric, if you didn't already know it, and this is The Weekday, Monday through Friday, available on podcast as well. So, what are we talking about on this Wednesday, June 26th? Well, let's start off with pricing, because that's one of the biggest variables that I see in the business. And that is, you can't get independent dealers to agree on anything, right? The ones that do it well are like John Deere. It doesn't matter what John Deere dealership you go to, the price is supposed to be the same, right? For the same part, same price. And we've got, as I mentioned, with these new hats, a new company just bought out our local one again, which is a bigger corporate. They say it's family owned, but it's corporate. And what they're doing is they're trying to streamline it so that you order your parts online now and have them shipped to your door versus buying through your local dealer. What's that doing? Well, some would say, well, the parts guys are overwhelmed and they're not answering the phones fast enough, so the online aspect will help the higher techie people like myself or it's got so everybody orders online, right? But when I first started selling parts online, there was not a John Deere part to be found anywhere online. And it wasn't until probably 7 years ago, 6 years ago, they had the green store. And somehow they got permission. Somehow. But they were selling it at full value of what all the other dealers were selling at. And the idea with them was they weren't allowing it because they did not want you competing against their other franchise dealers in other areas. And, even when we were at our height, were there complainers? Yeah. And they had good reason. I'm not going to take anything away from them. Is we were doing such a volume that my pricing was a lot different than their pricing. So what I was selling it for was a lot different than what they were selling it for. And when they could go online, a customer could go online and get it from me for $10 cheaper with free shipping right to your door priority. That's a no-brainer. Unless you need that part today. And that's the thing. We did our fair amount of overnights. And in the beginning, doing overnights through USPS, FedEx, and UPS was pretty good. Their track record was pretty good. But they started to waver. And now overnight, Matt, that it might be late the next day or first thing the next day morning. And I'm like, why do I need to pay for overnight if you're not going to give me overnight? So I kind of stepped away from that, and that stemmed a lot of the sales of these people that needed it quickly because it just would lead to complications of them being pissed because the part didn't make it to them overnight when they paid overnight. Because if they wanted overnight, they paid for it. So how do people come up with a price? How do dealers come up with a price to charge? Well, there's a number of thoughts that go into it. When I'm buying parts from the aftermarket companies, the OEM companies, they give me a suggested retail price on it. And that's all it is suggested. You could charge more, you can charge less. It's just giving you a ballpark range of what you should be charging for it. And I've seen where a lot of shops would just take and download the OEM's catalog of what the list price is and then just charge list price for it. And then I've seen some companies, some dealers charging more than list. Marking it up 50, 100%. And I know because one of my customers just brought it up. I know that electronic supplies markup, if you need a part and they need to order for you, automatically they marked it up 100%. 100%. But if you're selling it at list or marking it up 100%, how well are you competing with the other shops in your area? See, that's a big consideration to take into your pricing. Is, do you know what the other dealers are charging in your area for it? I know that the other dealers in my area are charging suggested list. I already know that. That's probably the easiest way to do it. I had Excel sheets of where I download the whole catalog. And then what I would do, because I didn't want to play petty ante itty bitty things. All right. So if it was anything under $10, we didn't sell it. I think was it $5. We didn't sell it in the beginning. So we nixed all those parts that came in under $5 list. Because at the time when we were selling online, both eBay, Amazon, our own stores, Bonanza, Rubica, that we got our markup on the part, right? And then we got shipping on top of that. And you could pad the shipping a little bit to make money. So if it weighs 4 ounces, if you put 8 ounces, it might put up the next category, which might fetch you $1.50 on a $5 part. But we had to do that to a certain extent because eBay, Amazon, all of them were charging us a percentage of the sale, right? Less shipping. And the reason they wanted everybody to go to free shipping is so they could start charging on the wholesale instead of just the sale of the part. Because now, instead of being charged, for $20 for the part and then $8 for shipping, they would get a commission of, 3 to 5% of the, $20. And then the $8, they didn't get anything out of it. Now with the free shipping, it's $28 free shipping. Guess what? Yes, they're getting the 3% now of the cost of the part plus the shipping. Makes more money for them, less money for me. So then we had to go through and revise everything all over again. And with the volume discount that I had, warehouse, it started getting hard to compete with the local guys because the local guys weren't charging shipping and they weren't having somebody take 3%, 4% out of the sale every time. And the other thing that we had going for us at the time was the only place we had to collect sales tax was if we shipped it to somewhere in New York. And I said this in the get-go. Come out with a uniform sales tax. Make it 3, make it 5, whatever. If it's 3% across the board, that's probably 3% more than what each state was getting for sales tax up until then on online orders. And they couldn't trust, and I don't blame them, they couldn't trust the sellers to do the right thing. No, there were a lot of them that were saying they weren't in business but were. So the next bet was just go right to the venues and force them to charge sales tax. And the sales tax was, I think, destination. But they took it out of the seller's hands and put it into the venues. So to wrap all that up into a ball, I know you're like, but what do I charge for a markup on my parts? Well, a lot of it is location. Depends on how much competition you have locally. And then the other is you have to take the online companies into consideration. And if this is what I don't agree with when it comes to online sales, all right? There are quite a few of them out there that are buying the Chinese parts, bringing them in, repackaging them, and then selling them as Stens, rotary, OEMs, and they're not. They're not, folks. Just be aware of that. So, those guys, they're easy to spot online because they're selling it at such a discount compared to the rest of us, right? They're somewhere in between the Chinese and you if you're selling online. But it's wherever your comfort level is. How much money do you need to make from your part sales? What kind of volume do you do in parts? If you don't do a lot of volume in parts, then you're probably going to have to go with either suggested list or 75 to 100% markup. So if you're buying the part for, let's say, $100, that means at 50%, you're going to be selling it for $150. And if you have 100% markup, you're selling it for $200. See what I'm getting at? And that also has to be factored in, as far as I'm concerned, to you're doing repairs at the shop as well, right? So you're getting paid on the labor. That's where most businesses, repair shops, even with a retail space, make their money is on the labor part. So you have to keep that in mind too, that you have a trimmer come in and you mark up the carburetor, let's say 100%. So your cost is $30 and now the carburetor is $60, right? and you have an hour's labor on it. And hopefully you're not charging 100 or 120 an hour, but if you are, let's say 100, now you're at 160 bucks for that trimmer. Have you gone past the halfway mark of what it would cost for a new trimmer? And it's going to depend on what it is, whether it's a steel or whether it's a weed eater, right? So you have to keep all those things in mind, because you don't want to have the price get too high to where you lose the business and it's not worth fixing. But you want to be high enough so that your shop is making a profit at the end of the day. So the pricing is going to vary by location and those other factors that I just named. Labor costs, keeping the work in-house, and making money on both. So you could do like I do when it comes to my parts side, is my parts are priced halfway between what my cost is and what suggested list is. So now my part is in the middle, all right? And that way, by the time I figure my labor at an hour, which is 55, and if that part cost me 30, normal list on that would be like 45.50. If I charge 40, I'm still making 10 bucks on it, right? And I'm still making my labor because now it's feasible to fix the trimmer. And a lot of this is going to bank on how good your mechanics or how good you are as a mechanic to get something in and out. There's more than just how much should I charge. You need to take those other factors into consideration, if you know what I mean. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is do-overs, because we've got another one this morning. We don't get a lot, but we took a machine back Monday morning to a customer, and it's rained for a couple of days. So yesterday was a good day for mowing, right? And he went out and he went to mow, and the brand new deck belt come off again. How do you handle it as a repair shop? I'll tell you how I do, but I'm just curious how you do. The way I handle it at the repair shop is it something we missed? Is one of the idlers bearing loose or going bad? Especially with a deck belt, any machine comes in anyways, we blow it completely off. And one of the things that I noticed when this machine came in last week with a thrown deck belt, and he kept running the actual tractor, and the belt was up in, and it was rubbing on the belt, so the belt was unusable. So we ordered him a new belt, so hopefully he didn't do that again. But the biggest chief complaint that I had, and that Claude had, is he was letting the grass get too built up on the deck. And he's using the bagger system, but you still get so much onto that deck, and he had it packed. And that's what originally threw the belt, was the too much grass and some twigs that he'd gotten into, and it got underneath the belt and flipped it off. He's a good customer, he and his wife. What are you going to do about it? I know what I'm going to do about it. We're going to pick it up this morning. He's about a mile away. We're going to take a look at that deck, blow it off again. I know it's going to need to be blown off. Hopefully he hasn't damaged the deck belt. Put it back on. Have a talk to him about keeping his deck clean. And it's even worse with wet grass. That really makes heaps on the deck. But it's going to be a no charge. And some of you are going to say, well, you need to charge because if it's grass clippings on the deck again that's causing it, shouldn't he have to pay for it? And the honest answer, yes. But I know that I try to look at both sides. I know that she's going to say, you just put that belt on, you just give it back to my husband Monday, and Tuesday afternoon it's off again. That's another thing you have to keep in mind when you touch somebody's machine. Anything that goes wrong from that point on, it's got to be something you did because it didn't have that problem before, right? It didn't have that problem before because we did something to correct the weak link, right? And lastly, we'll finish out with Randy's comment. And that is, he's saying that a lot of the old feeds of ours are coming up on his suggested list. What I can tell you is nothing that I've done on my end. All right? My end, I tried for a while, I'll be honest with you guys. I tried for a while with how to get more subscribers, how to get more likes, what a video is supposed to look like, on and on and on. And I watched a number of videos of these guys that had a gazillion subscribers. And to me, you would watch maybe a 15-minute video with 200-300 edits where they stop and then they start and then they stop and then they start. And it makes it, a good editor. What's the right word? They say you need to keep the person involved, right? And I'm probably their best example for how not to do a video. Because most of them say they got to have all these edits. So it's constant, you start, you don't have any lulls, you don't have any ands and buts and all that. It's just snip, 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 right? So I decided quite a while ago, I threw it out the window and I said, you know what? All I'm going to care about is doing videos that I think will be helpful to somebody else. I do a couple edits here and there, mainly because I'll take one train of thought and go with it. And then when I get to the end of that, I'll stop and then restart with the next train of thought. I don't have long trains of thought, especially as I get older. So I think what's really going on is you're seeing AI at its finest. YouTube is owned by Google. Google owns AI. And the chat GDP that you see, the version that you and I can access, is running on information from 2 years ago and older, okay? You bet your bottom dollar that Google is using the current version and is selling the current version to all these companies, the big 500 companies. And its AI is going through and looking at not my content. They're trying to keep you, the viewer, on the platform, on YouTube, for as long as possible. So they're keying on what are you watching and what might interest you more down the road. And if you had, if you had me trying to look at what you're viewing has been, and then trying to match it up with a gazillion YouTube videos that are out there, you couldn't do it. But AI, the current version, can do it in milliseconds versus years for an individual to compute all that, right? So what they're doing is they're going through and they're looking at you, the watcher, and trying to figure out what you like, what you don't like, what videos may interest you. And if you're seeing some of my older ones show up on suggested, it's seeing that you haven't looked at or watched them older ones completely through, so it's going to start showing them to you. Or ones that you stayed and watched almost the whole video, they may bring it back around because it's something that you stayed on the channel, on that station long enough before you clicked away. So no, it's nothing I'm doing, Randy. This is Google, AI, YouTube at its finest. So on that note, pricing, it's all location, 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 and what your comfort level is. Things you have to take into consideration is competition, and then your labor rate and your parts cost. Are they high enough to where it makes a lot of the repairs not deemable or realistic because it's over halfway on a new? The do-overs, you got to keep those at a minimum. And sometimes it's our fault, and sometimes it's the customers. If it's a good customer, we'll just do it for free, like today. On a new customer, no. Nope. Because you haven't shown that you're willing to stay with just us. And the good chances are when something let go, it was something else other than what we fixed. Even though we should be going from front to back on that machine, if it's not the part that we replaced, then yes, they get charged. So on that note, you guys have a great Wednesday. We'll see you here bright and early tomorrow morning. Thanks again. Thanks so much for watching.